Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Donna Just Being Real. All right, the verdict is in. Yes, the verdict is in. This monster, this demon seed, was found guilty. Yes. All right, so we're going to watch a clip of him found guilty and a little bit of other clips of what happened after court and stuff like that. So we're going to watch a little bit of a recap. Let's get it.
Versus Maxwell Anderson, case 24, CF1692, appearances.
Ian Vance Curzan and Megan Newport appear for the state along with Detective Joanne Donner.
Good morning, Anthony Cotton and Jason Finley with Max Anderson. Good morning again.
And good morning to all of you. At this point, I have received verdicts. They are in a proper legal fashion. Who is my foreperson? May I have your name and number for the record?
Juror number 1,
And you did sign these 4 verdicts and date them today? I did. Thank you. I will now read them into the record. As to count 1, the verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information. As to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of arson of property other than a building as charged in count 3 of the information. As to count 4, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as charged in count 4 of the information. At this point, I will poll the jury. What that means is as follows. I'm going to have the first juror stand in the back row on the far right. I'm going to ask you your juror number, and I'm going to ask you, well, stand and your juror number?
45.
Juror 45, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. Next juror. Juror 23, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. Juror 29, were these and are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 47, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. Juror 3, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. Juror 42, were these and are these your verdicts? Front row.
number 5,
Juror 5, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you.
number 1,
Juror 1, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you.
number 52,
Juror 52, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you.
juror 40,
Juror 40, were these and are these your verdicts?
Look at him like he's so shocked. Manuel, I see you. Happy Friday, everybody. This is a great Friday. Guilty, guilty. Now look at his face right here. Look at him. Are you trying to strike a tear or something? You didn't realize there was cameras all over the place? You thought you was slick? We saw you carrying her body up that hill like that. You piece of crap. All right, let's get back to it. Recap, recap, recap.
Verdicts. Thank you. Juror 21, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. Juror 36, were these and are these your verdicts? Thank you. State, are you satisfied with the polling?
Yes.
Defense, are you satisfied with the polling?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then at this point in time, your service is complete. You are done for 4 years. At this point, you are free to talk to anyone you choose or speak to no one. It is completely in your discretion at this point in time. I will come back to the jury room and speak with you in about 2 minutes, okay? Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Oh, you feel a little sad? I heard that his family, his parents was there. I don't know where they was at. I'm gonna have to go back to some of the old videos because I want to see his parents. They said they was in the courtroom, but maybe we'll see it later because I'm watching with y'all. We're gonna see the recaps. All right. I think I could fast forward this. Let's hear what these news commentators
Motions.
say.
State moves for judgments of conviction on counts 1 through 4, and I move the court to remand the defendant.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your.
Heard it was a quick verdict. You knew where this was headed. But we got an idea yesterday during closing arguments. I think there were 3 key pieces of evidence in this case that probably led to this quick verdict. And we know that the defense had been raising throughout that there were holes in the case. We don't have Maxwell Anderson. We can't see him in the car.
Right.
You don't have his DNA on the door handle. There were questions about how can you prove it was him, but there were 3 pieces. One, I believe, was, and probably one of the most key pieces, was him walking away. The video from the MCTS bus of him walking away from the fire that was set to that car, intentionally set to Sade Robinson's car. What's he doing on the north side? How could he be in the wrong place at the wrong time the next morning? But this was really key. They followed him all the way to the MCTS bus, and he comes back home. And the prosecution pointed this out yesterday. I can't believe I hadn't noticed it until now. He's sitting on the bus. He never pulls out his cell phone. Who sits on a bus all the way from the north side to the south side and doesn't, in this day and age, pull out their phone and look at it? Why? Because he left his phone at home to cover for the crime. That's what the prosecution said. And I think that was a really key piece. The defense argument was that the phone had been left at home or was off at home because he was asleep. If he was asleep, what's he doing on the north side? Why did he suddenly show up on the north side before the phone wakes back up? The defense couldn't explain that, and they didn't try to explain it. The only theory the defense had was finally presented yesterday, and that theory was maybe somebody kidnapped her in the alley. Maybe it was a stalker and they drove her all around the city. I don't know. Well, there was no evidence of a stalker. There was nothing on her cell phone that anyone was texting her other than Maxwell Anderson. The other key piece, I think, here was obviously the couch photos. That placed her in the house. And by yesterday, the defense said, we don't argue she was there. Well, they had been arguing if she was there. Now they're saying we don't argue she was there. We just think she left and was okay. And finally, it was the secret beach. Maxwell Anderson had taken an ex-girlfriend. We learned that yesterday. He had taken her there 5 to 10 times to the very same location where Sade Robinson's leg was found. The guy he's on the date with the night before, her leg shows up on the place he called his secret beach. I think those are the things that made this just, that proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that's why we got such a quick verdict.
And the clothes seen in those photos as well were in the burning car found afterwards.
Absolutely.
As well.
That was another key piece, that the cable knit sweater, because how do you know that's Sade Robinson on the couch? You can't see her face, but she's wearing a very distinctive sweater. You could see the hair matches. And then how do you know that's Maxwell Anderson's couch? Well, there's that little light blue pillow in the corner, and there's a red worn material with the brown piece of furniture next to it, which matches everything we saw in that living room photo that the investigators got when they went and served their search.
Yeah, they called it that distinct couch, the investigators on the witness stand. We just got this in from the courtroom as well. The sentencing for Maxwell Anderson is coming August 15th. So found guilty on all 4 of the counts. August 15th will be the sentencing. Let's get back to Julius Kim, our legal analyst with Kim and Lavoie, a defense attorney, but a former prosecutor as well. Julius, you just heard the counts read and kind of previewed. A short amount of time spent deliberating. I imagine no surprise from you hearing guilty on all counts.
No surprise at all. It was a pretty strong case for the state in the end. And I think Brian pointed out the main parts of why the state's case ended up being stronger than maybe we were wondering whether it was. And that was kind of these 3 pillars. The picture of Maxwell Anderson walking away from Sade Robinson's burning car. There has to be some kind of explanation put forth for that. The picture of Sade Robinson inside Maxwell Anderson's apartment in a compromising position. But I thought the third pillar was this girlfriend who came forward and talked about this secret beach. And those 3 things were the foundation of the state's case, and the rest of the evidence was just kind of filling in the gaps around it to solidify.
I covered it yesterday with the ex-girlfriend, and I will say that ex-girlfriend really sealed the deal. She helped a lot. Reason.
The case. And ultimately, the jury believed the state's case. And so, again, this was something where either you believed he did it or you didn't. And clearly, the jury made a quick conclusion here.
You've made closing arguments before. I'm curious. Yesterday, leading up to this, you and I were talking, and you thought at times that the state was having a really tough time with some of this, and the defense was really making some good points. As a defense attorney yourself, you were pointing some of those out to me where it looked like the state had some real holes. It felt like Ian Vance Krazan really had his mojo yesterday. He seemed confident. I don't know that if I sensed that Tony Cotton had that same confidence by the time it got there. How important are closing arguments in making that final impression on the jury? And do you think that Ian Vance Krazan nailed it down because his was so strong?
Yeah, I think that your perception is really right, and it matches what I saw too. The state, Ian Vance Krazan, I thought did a really, really great job of laying out all of the facts in this case. There was a lot of evidence in this case. There were over 400 exhibits, over 80 witnesses that were called, and that's a lot of information to assemble in a way that a jury can follow and to ultimately come to a conclusion that someone is guilty or not guilty. And what the state did very well is not only present the case very passionately in the closing arguments, but they also did it in a way where they utilized and leveraged technology. I thought that the timeline that the state put forward through the software program that they use with the maps and the corresponding images was great. It was really great utilization of technology and software to help juries get through the evidence in this particular case. Now, the flip side to that was the defense. And I did feel that the defense was a little flat yesterday, in all honesty. And I couldn't figure out why, because I think that Anthony Cotton is a good lawyer. I don't know if he was just tired. He felt deflated after the strength of the state's case. I'm not sure what was going on, but clearly, there was a noticeable difference in just the energy that was being put forth during the closing arguments, and I think that definitely can make a difference.
I thought especially watching the counter that Ian Vance Krazan had to the defense closing argument was quite powerful as well, so emotional. Julius, we have a question for you in a moment, but we want to take you live inside the courthouse right now. We have a feed of some of the supporters of Sade Robinson in that notable color pink that has been worn at so many of the memorials and celebrations for her life, and this fight from her family and friends over the months inside of the courtroom. Just to get our viewers up to speed now, Maxwell Anderson guilty on all counts counts. We will take you live to our team of reporters, both outside and inside the courthouse, as they hear from people, as you're seeing some of the many notable witnesses.
Joanne Donna, right there, who just passed by the camera last, was on the stand 6 times. She
Right.
was the most frequently called witness in the case.
Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office detectives, one of the lead investigators for this case. We will bring you there live to the courthouse as we can to hear from the supporters of Sade Robinson once they are willing to speak. But Julius, let me get back to that last point you made about the defense. Was there anything that you thought they could have done? There's ultimately the decision not to call a single witness, not to have Maxwell Anderson testify in his own defense, which is his right and is common in criminal cases like this. But anything that you thought the defense could have done that they did not in this trial? Or was the mountain just too steep when it came to the evidence on the state side?
Well, again, in fairness to the defense team in this case, it's really easy as an attorney that's doing analysis to kind of play armchair quarterback to these situations. But of course, by human nature, you're going to go and wonder if something else could have been done or maybe done differently. In this case, as we talked about off the record here, Brian, many times, is that this is a case where I felt the defense was making its defense through cross-examination of the state's witnesses, and that sometimes that's what you're left with as a defense team, because if the facts aren't there for you, sometimes what you have to do is try and poke holes in the state's case and the evidence that the state's
a little bit later. But right now, we're going to turn our attention to Bill Miston, who has been in the courtroom each and every day of the Maxwell Anderson trial. Bill joins us now live from the hallway. Members of Sade Robinson's family, her friends, her supporters behind you there, Bill. Tell us about the moment when the guilty charges are read and what that was like inside the courtroom.
Yeah, there were nearly 50 people in the gallery, at least on the side where Robinson's family had been sitting throughout the trial. Many more others in the gallery, a lot of them law enforcement, other prosecutors in the gallery for when that verdict was read. And you could hear a sigh that went out in the gallery from Robinson's family and friends and supporters when that verdict was read just a few moments ago. To give you a recap, though, the jury spent roughly less than an hour deliberating between 2 days. The jury was sent back to begin deliberations at around 4:40 on Thursday afternoon. They broke shortly before 5 o'clock. They resumed deliberations this morning at around 8:30, and by 9 o'clock had reached a verdict. We're waiting on family members who had gone into the victim witness services after that verdict was read. Sheena Scarborough, Sade's mother, visibly emotional, as well as all of her family and friends as they are here in the hallway down the way from the courtroom where this trial had taken place over nearly 2 weeks now. We're anticipating a press conference later this morning at around 11 o'clock with the district attorney's office as well. We'll be sure to bring that to you when that happens. We're now reporting live at the courthouse. Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
Bill, if you don't mind, just a quick point of clarification. I think I said earlier that, Maxwell Anderson's father was in the gallery. I believe I misspoke. You said there was actually no representative, no member of Maxwell Anderson's family.
Sorry, you cut out. You cut out there, Carl. But yes, Maxwell Anderson's father, who has been here for nearly all aspects of this trial from the beginning, was not here in court today when that verdict was read.
Interesting. All right, we'll get back to Bill Miston in a little bit. Just to logistically get people up to speed, if you're just joining us now here on Fox 6 and our different streaming platforms, Maxwell Anderson guilty on all 4 counts that he faced: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson, and hiding a corpse. And he will be sentenced now August 15th. Bill mentioned it. We are expecting a press conference around 11 o'clock this morning with the district attorney that just won this case, as well as police officers and investigators that were a part of this as well.
You wonder, you may be asking why August 15th? That's so far down the road. Well, first of all, they're going to do a pre-sentence investigation. Most likely that's going to happen. That will inform what the ultimate verdict is. And of course, that'll also give family members, maybe those who live out of town, time to make plans to get here, to be here, to have a chance to speak. Of course, that will be the family's first chance to actually speak up and tell Maxwell Anderson what's on their minds, to tell the court, to tell the public, but again, to tell the defendant what they think of all of this.
There were a couple outbursts, especially from Sade Robinson's mother at the end of week 1, as well as you could hear some of the clapping that Judge Crivello noted specifically at the end of the closing arguments from the prosecution yesterday. Ryan, I want to ask you this, because you've kind of experienced this a little bit like the jurors did. You've been watching each and every minute of this testimony over the 8 days, 7 of them witness testimony of providing our coverage. What did you think of the ebbs and flow? Because I imagine you experienced this a bit like the jurors did. There were lulls where you're getting nitty-gritty detail about the car movements and the different data that they compiled.
It was
versus that final moment.
There were times where the case really dragged. And I think it was just a couple of days ago when it was at the end of the afternoon when they had spent a long time, the prosecution spent time showing that video in the dark from across the street in Maxwell Anderson's house. And you're just looking for little flickers of movement. Clip after clip, the lights are off. We started to hear that jurors were starting to yawn. One was closing his eyes. The judge even said she was a little concerned the jury was getting sleepy. And I was talking to our legal analyst, Julius Kim, saying, I think the state's losing the jury right now. So you feel the case is dragging. But I think the state knew it had to get that evidence in. It had to get that evidence on the record, and strategically then wrapped the case up yesterday. It really accelerated. Yeah. Yesterday, we got the ex-girlfriend talking about the secret beach. And then we got the photo of her on the couch. And that was like, we might have had you lulled for a little while, but it seems like the state had the last punch ready to go and brought the energy back. And I think that was by design, was they knew what they were saving for the end. They wanted to go out on that note, and it seemed to be a powerful note that made an impact on the jury.
Trials in reality are very rarely, if never, like they are in TV and movies, right? This is kind of the nitty-gritty reality of what it takes to work your way through.
Just this morning, I was watching A Few Good Men. Yeah, that scene, that's what everyone imagines. There's going to be a speech and there's going to be a great confrontation between the attorney and the person on the stand. It rarely happens that way. Most of the testimony is very measured. It is very dry. It is to set a foundation and build a case. And you don't ever hear how all of that stuff connects until the end when each side gets to make their final argument. That's the story. It's like they've gathered all the breadcrumbs and they're finally making bread. It is, I don't know if you make bread out of breadcrumbs. That's a terrible analogy.
I was the only person during the pandemic that did not use sourdough.
But you get the point that they're taking all of those pieces, and it can be mind-numbing at times. I don't know how many of you watched every minute of this testimony, and if you did, you're one of those true crime lovers, because otherwise it's not exciting. Yeah. But I do think that while there were lulls, I think the state kind of ramped things up at the end, and yesterday accelerated quickly. And I really thought Julius Kim made an interesting point. The defense did make its case through cross-examination. Right. But by doing so, by the state calling all the witnesses the defense might want to call, it meant the defense had no one left to call. And if you're a juror and you go, they don't even have a case, it looks like they're just kind of hoping we find him not guilty. The defense did make a case. They just made it throughout the course. I think that was another strategy that worked well for the state.
Yeah, especially in closing arguments yesterday, Anthony Cotton for the defense seemed to harp on three different things. First of all, intent. Could you actually say this was an intentional homicide? The burden of proof as well, the fact that you don't have a visual evidence of Maxwell Anderson in some of those certain areas. And then beyond a reasonable doubt there, the argument of the wrong place, wrong time, whereas the prosecution kept saying, okay, how does this one person keep showing up at the wrong place, at the wrong time, over and over and over?
I thought Julius Kim made a really interesting point yesterday, too, because now that there's a conviction, there's still he still has appeal rights, and he will likely appeal because most defendants end up appealing at some point. But on what will he appeal? Was there an error made? And yesterday there was, I think it was yesterday, it was either yesterday or the day before. They all blend together after a while. There was testimony about, and I think it was yesterday because the ex-girlfriend, it was yesterday morning, the ex-girlfriend was asked by the defense, was Maxwell Anderson ever violent with you? And she said, was he ever physically abusive was the question. And she said no. And right after that, the state went to the judge, said, we want a sidebar. The judge sent the jury out of the room, and they had some back and forth where the state said, I think they've opened the door to us talking about the emotional abuse that he committed on her, and also that he'd been in a fight with her ex-boyfriend at a bar, and that he had at one time instructed her to beat herself up in the bathroom and then tell police the ex-boyfriend did it. The state was given license by the judge. Don't talk about the emotional abuse, but physical abuse, they've opened the door to. So you can talk about the fight. You can talk about him telling her to beat herself up. The state mentioned the fight briefly. They never went to the other piece. And I thought, why would the judge said, go ahead? Why didn't you do it? You just fought for it. And Julius Kim said he thinks they were being conservative to protect the record, because if they went too far with something they had previously agreed they weren't going to talk about, that might open the door. And so Julius Kim said he really saw the state behaving in a way that experienced prosecutors do here, that a lesser experienced prosecutor might have taken that as license to go full bore and trash Maxwell Anderson's character. They didn't. And he thinks that was intentional to protect the record. So this isn't the end of the case. This is a big day for the victims, obviously, for the victim's family, but now they're sentencing and there's still appeal rights after that.
I think it's important to remember there's a victim at the center of this, right? Sade Robinson was a 19-year-old college student about a month away from getting her criminal justice degree of all things, and she was the one whose life was ended in such ugly fashion more than a year ago. As we get you ready for the rest of our coverage here today, again, we're waiting to hear from Sade Robinson's family or
for the family. At some point now that there's a guilty verdict, will Maxwell Anderson come clean and say where he deposited that? We don't know, but that is certainly something they are still waiting for.
We're starting to get reaction from supporters of Sade Robinson. Our Durante Matthews is doing an interview right now outside of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Let's listen.
All need support. So just coming out and showing them that we're better and bigger in numbers, that's all that they needed, that I felt, love and strength.
And so when that verdict was read, guilty on all counts, you were in there when that happened. Can you just describe to me the atmosphere in there?
The atmosphere was a sigh of relief that justice had been served and that they did not kill her twice. We felt that this should have happened. They shouldn't have went to trial with this at all. With the evidence that was displayed and showed in there, this shouldn't have went to trial at all.
So you were not surprised with the guilty verdict?
I was not at all surprised at all. There was every evidence, him setting the car on fire, everything that led up to this verdict. It was horrific.
And can you talk to me again? You say you didn't know Sade, but you felt compelled to come out here because they needed that support.
Absolutely, they did. They needed that support. I feel that this is justice for not only Sade, but those whose voices go unheard every single day and are still missing. Black children, children in the community of color, those who are in underserved communities, their voices have been served with this trial here.
All right, thank you, Sierra. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I let you go?
No, justice has been served, though.
Thank you so very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
I think that's so telling. Speaks to why this case has resonated with so many, including people who did not know Sade Robinson but wanted to be there to support her friends and family. This is a young woman, a 19-year-old at the time, who was going on a date, a college student. And I think, as you, Brian, alluded to in some of the podcasts you've done on Open Record and the like, the reason that so many women especially can feel this story, you're going on a date with someone, that happens and could be momentarily. We will take that live for you here on Fox 6. The other people that we did not hear when it comes.
All right, I guess the defense lawyer is speaking, so we're going to hear that one. Okay, let's hear what the defense, this demon seeds lawyer, have to say.
testimony. We heard them on video. Was the burning a car? And actually, we're going to pause.
Oh, we've got Durante. He does have Tony Cotton.
Durante Matthews is back with Tony Cotton, the defense attorney.
Trial just wrapped up. Maxwell Anderson guilty on all counts. Can you just talk to me about what's going on in your head right now?
Quite a bit. I just saw Max in the jail. Obviously, he's hanging in there. It was a tough case. It's been a long 2 weeks. I mean, there's been a lot of side issues that came up. There were innumerable things that developed during the trial and problems that came up outside of court. So I'm looking forward to getting my mind off of it for a little bit.
So you said you recently spoke with Max. What exactly did he say to you?
He's wanted to know about the sentencing process and what that looks like, and I explained it to him.
Okay, and you said there were a lot of problems that occurred outside of the courtroom. Can you just talk to me about that?
Well, sure. I mean, there were threats that were made against me over and over and over, and for the job that I was doing, and we worked hard to give our client a good defense and did everything we could.
And can you just talk to us about?
You know, I don't understand why this guy was being threatened. I guess people don't know too much about the law. It's really basic. You know, everybody's entitled for representation. Everyone. You know, you're not denied that. So if the man decides he wants to say not guilty, he's entitled to a lawyer. The lawyer has to defend him. You know, it's his choice to do. So we can't get mad at this lawyer. He's just doing his job. It is what it is. So whoever's threatening his life, I don't get it. He was assigned to a job. He went to school for this. He's a defense attorney. I think he already knew that this guy was a creep. He already knew that this guy killed this woman. But he has to represent him, and he has to represent him fairly. All right, let's resume. We're not mad at you, because I tell you, y'all defense lawyers, I think about 80 to 90% of your clients are guilty. Yep. I know y'all try to wish that they take a plea deal and stuff, but, you know, these lunatics is like, no, I'm not taking no plea deal. I'm innocent. Yeah, okay. All right, let's get back to it.
You taking on that job of being Maxwell Anderson's defense attorney?
Sure. Every time I represent someone, it's because a family reaches out to me and they ask me whether I would be available to represent their loved one. I meet with families, I discuss the case with them, and I take on every case with the same vigor and effort that I can do for everybody, regardless of what the circumstances are. In our system, everybody deserves a defense. Everyone's entitled to a defense, and I work hard to make sure a person gets that.
Okay,
and when it comes to
Manuel.
this particular defense, do you feel like you put your best foot forward when representing Maxwell Anderson?
Yes, we did everything in our power to cross-examine every witness the state had and show where we thought the holes were in the state's case. Obviously, Max.
I have to say, defense, I think you did a great job because, I mean, look what you was up against. Look what you was up against with all this evidence. You know what I mean? I mean, he was grasping for straws. He was doing the best he could. He knew that this lunatic he was representing was guilty. But you can't tell him to say, hey, plead guilty. All you can do is, this is what I'm assuming. I think it's all common sense. He tells his client, these are your options. You pick your options. Which one is best for you? Which one would you like to do? And I'll explain it to you. That's it. Don't get mad at him. Yeah, this was a hard one for you, wasn't it? I know it was hard for you. You probably having nightmares. He probably go home talking to his wife like, oh my God, I'm representing this man. Do you see the evidence? Nobody's thinking about that. You want to threaten this guy for what? If anything happens to him, what's going to change the situation? He don't have anything to do with it. This is insane. This bothers me. I don't get it. But let's get back to it. And everybody who's coming in, make sure you hit the like and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. So this is a serious case. Why did he do this to this girl? Why? What? I don't understand. Why did he do this to this girl? I'll tell you one thing. She definitely wasn't going to be the last victim. Probably was one before. But she definitely wasn't going to be the last victim. She wasn't. All right, let's get back to hear what they have to say.
Made a decision not to testify. And so we respect that decision because it's his to make, not ours.
Do you think that decision not to testify in the long run hurt him?
I don't know that it would have moved the needle one way or the other, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of problems that develop when a person takes a stand. There's a lot of unknown variables. They get cross-examined. And so I understood why he made that decision. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? You look back
exactly,
and say,
Jack.
Could have done this, should have done that. It's human nature. But at the time, certainly that seemed like the right decision, and still does seem like the right decision in my mind, given what could have happened on the stand.
Is there any point in this case where you felt like it was lacking, or you felt like I could have done better?
No, I mean, I felt like every witness, we had a game plan on how to address them and where to attack their testimony. I mean, quite honestly, the evidence was everybody heard the evidence, right? He sat here for 2 weeks. So that's the state's case. Obviously, the jury didn't find there to be big problems with it. And you don't choose your facts. You get the facts you get the evidence you get, and then you try to work with that. So can't change that.
But one big question I do have for you: do you believe Maxwell Anderson is guilty?
My personal feelings don't really matter, and I'm not going to answer that.
Was that ever a topic that came up when you and Max conversed?
No, we don't really focus on. I mean, our conversations are obviously private. So regardless of what we talk about, I can't get into that.
So what is next for you in this particular case, you and Max?
We'll sentencing in August, so we'll be here with him in August to try to get him through that process, and then we'll turn the matter over to an appeal lawyer.
And that's kind of what I wanted to go into, those plans of appeal. Can you just talk to me about that?
I don't do appeals, so I do some appeals, but it's not my bread and butter. It's not the focus of my practice. So we'll have a different lawyer that'll evaluate everything.
So after this, you said you're just looking forward to just getting this out of your head. Can you talk to me about the toll this is taking on you?
I mean, it took a toll on everybody, right? I mean, I think it's everybody who's involved in this process. It takes a toll on. I don't think that the toll it took on me is any greater than anybody else who's had to work on this case, from law enforcement to certainly the victim's family. It took the biggest toll on. So I don't think my gripes probably pale in comparison to what they've been through.
What do you think the key piece of evidence was for the state in this case?
I think there were a number of key pieces of evidence, but I mean, that'd be a better question to ask the prosecutor than me.
I imagine you're probably not their favorite person right now, but have you been in contact with Sade's family at all?
No. I mean, but I told them in opening that my heart goes out to them, and it does. I mean,
Exactly, Emmanuel. This was not going to be his last victim. Oh, he just got a rush. I think they say, Emmanuel, with serial killers, like once they get through that first kill, that first one, it's like a rush, and they got to do it again and again and again. I think Jeffrey Dahmer said that too. Or was it Ted Bundy? One of these serial killers said it. All right, let's resume.
We have a job to do to defend our client to the best of our abilities, but I'm not inhuman. It's horrendous, right? I mean, it's horrendous what happened to Sade. I think everybody agrees on that, regardless of where you fall in this case. And so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to reach out to them, but obviously my heart goes out to them.
Oh, one thing I do want to ask about the witness that was brought, the tenant that stayed at Maxwell Anderson. As we, as viewers, expected that to be a great witness for you guys, the defense, because he actually lived there. Did that go the way you planned?
Yeah, I thought he was a great witness for us. He didn't hear anything. There was no promotion, no struggle. So it was basically what I expected it to be. The jury didn't find that to be particularly persuasive or impactful, though.
What do you think your strongest point was in this case?
I don't know. I mean, it's you have to look at each individual witness and identify flaws with what they did. I mean, I thought there was a lack of DNA. I thought there was a huge point, a lack of being able to say how she died. You know, what were the circumstances? How was it intentional? What did Max, if it was intentional, what was the means by which he did it? How did he do it? Where did he do it? And to me, there's just those unanswered questions. Obviously, the jury didn't see it that way, but maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much putting my lawyer hat on and just saying, you're supposed to look at it as the letter of the law, but you are. And, there's, in my mind, doubts about how the heck it happened. The state throws out theories. Was it she was strangled, she was stabbed, or some other means, but we don't know. And I don't know how you can get from, innocence to guilt unless you've got that sort of smoking gun evidence that says this is how it happened. And the medical examiner doesn't know.
And since there was not that quote unquote smoking gun, did you expect a guilty verdict today?
My expectation was, I could see the jury convicting on some of these counts based on, if you look at it individually and look at each count, I could understand that. I thought in the intentional homicide, there were glaring holes in the state's case. Obviously, I was wrong. Jury didn't see it that way. That's what juries are for. It's their job to look at it and tell the defense lawyer if he's full of shit. I don't know. They make the decision.
Well, I appreciate you so very much. Thank you for speaking, man.
Oh, yeah, I got your mic on too.
And apologies for that choice word at the end.
I don't know that Tony Cotton knew he was live on the air.
No, I'm not sure. But honestly, credit to him for doing that interview with us after a losing effort, as it turns out, on his side. And when it comes to it, Maxwell Anderson is the person who is guilty of intentional homicide so far inside the courthouse.
Well, Carl, as soon as I got the phone call, I rushed right over here to the public safety building. This is something that Sade Robinson's family, they have been waiting for this since April of last year. I was able to text with her mother. She told me.
Oh, I just want to let everybody know. Well, usually, if you've been following me, I usually do the speed for these recaps a little bit fast. So the speed is on 1.30. Just letting people know, just in case you're like, wow, everybody's talking so fast. We have to get through this. You can hit the setting and adjust it to whatever's comfortable for you. Go for it. All right, Laura, what did Laura have to say? I wonder if he's done this before. They need to do some investigating now. There could be more. Exactly. Because if she wasn't the first, she definitely wasn't going to be the last, Laura. She definitely wasn't. I'm just glad they got this creep off the streets. But don't you remember, I don't know if you was following Laura, but they did say there was a interview. Well, somebody was this question, it was a news clip. And it was a woman that I guess she went to go and see him. And then she walked in the house. She got a little bit of a creep. And I think he was like, come to the basement. Come to the basement. This creep said. And she was like, no, I didn't do it. All right, TB, I see you. All right, let's get back to it. Let's hear some more. This is all like the recap. I think the mother's speaking. So we're just going to work our way and get there and hear what the mother has to say. But I want to see the father, because they said the father was in the courtroom all the time. But I think he wasn't there for today for the verdict. He wasn't here for verdict. That was smart of him. But first of all, I'm not supporting any of my children doing some crap like this. Are you flipping kidding me? I'm not supporting. I'm sorry. That's it. I'll be sending notes to the daughter's parents and say, I'm sorry that I birthed this kid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for bringing life to him, and then he's taking away your life. Yeah, I said it. Resume.
Yesterday, Sheena Scarborough, Sade Robinson's mother, told me that she would not be speaking until a verdict has been reached. And now that we know that Maxwell Anderson has been found guilty on all counts, we are awaiting that moment for Sheena Scarborough, as well as the rest of Sade Robinson's family, to come out here and speak to members of the media. I'm told from Sheena Scarborough, she told me about 5 to 10 minutes ago that she is getting ready. We know that they are about to come out. I did ask the DA's office for just a 2-minute warning so I can give you all a heads up about when we could expect to finally hear from Sade Robinson's family. But again, this is the moment that her mother, her father, her sister, her grandmother, her uncle, they have all been waiting for this. Her dad flew in for the trial from Florida. He's been here every single day. Her mother missed one day because this has been such a emotional, overwhelming feeling for her. She told me she just needed a day. So again, we're waiting to hear from Sheena Scarborough, as well as Carlos Robinson and the rest of the Robinson family, as we now have a verdict. Again, Maxwell Anderson found guilty on all counts.
Let me ask you about Sheena Scarborough specifically, because I think she is the person we're waiting to hear from. It was her daughter, her baby, taken from her more than 14 months ago now. And I know in some of your reporting, Bria, you've spoken to how this has physically affected her over the months, having to go through this, see such gruesome images of her daughter's body scattered around Milwaukee County, while she is also trying to keep Sade's memory alive and use this horrific event to help and save other young women like Sade. What have you been most impressed by when it comes to Sheena Scarborough over this long period?
I think the thing, and it's kind of interesting when I think about it, but over the last year and a half, we built this relationship. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I know that, hey, maybe Sheena is going to send me a picture or a video of Sade Robinson, because that's just kind of the rapport and the relationship that we have built over the last year and a half. But again, we have Sheena Scarborough, just a really strong individual here in the courtroom. Any of the reporters who've been here, they can tell you that she's been needing assistance getting in and out of the courtroom because her mobility has taken a hit since her daughter was tragically killed last April. So again, we have Sade Robinson's mother, her father. They've been inside of this courtroom, and they told me the most painful ordeal in all of this was they were preparing for the trial to take place in December. So they were getting ready.
I haven't been to the grocery store in over a year, but I'm eating healthier than ever. Here's how I did it. Meal planning used to be
relive this tragedy all over again, something that they live with on a daily basis. So we're just currently out here waiting for them. Carl, I know you asked me about the Sade's Voice Foundation. That's something that Sheena Scarborough has started, as long as other supporters of Sade Robinson, for missing and endangered Black women. This is an organization that they want to put a lot of effort and energy into making sure that something like this just never happens again.
You know, Bria, go back to the beginning of all of this when this was first discovered, and you look at the support that Sade Robinson got from the beginning, not just support for her family, but in actually going out and doing investigation. I mean, you have community members that were finding pieces of evidence that police missed, like the blanket that was found in the park there at 31st and Galena. It really says something about the rally of support behind Robinson and her family.
Yeah, we have one of Sade Robinson's cousins. She actually found a blanket at the Galena playground. I believe there's some activity behind me, but I'm told they're coming down right now. I see some pink t-shirts coming out. So again, hopefully we're hearing from them very soon. But we have family members that found body parts. We had family members that told me they walked as far as from the
Enough. It was just like that. Once that happened, I think we knew where this was headed. It meant a guilty verdict. And there you see Sade Robinson's family and friends, supporters, making their way down the safety building steps. And very soon we're going to hear from them for the first time since this verdict.
Wearing the color pink that has become Sade's color, and cheers from the onlookers there. Sade Robinson's mother being helped down the steps. Let's take a moment just to soak this in before their remarks begin.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank the jury. We'd like to thank the judge. We'd like to thank the community for stepping forward and helping us locate her remains. We'd like to thank them for having patience with the family and for their support. It has been a long year. It has been a moment of grief that no parent should have to bear, and that this family has endured. They've held their heads up high as they've sat through this trial. There were moments of weakness, there were moments of anger, there were moments of frustration, and throughout all of that, they were victorious in seeking justice. That was the most important thing to them, and we are appreciative to this community for supporting them in that. And as we move forward, we will be seeking legislation to help prevent this from happening in the future, to support women who are sex trafficked, who are kidnapped, who are put in positions where they are vulnerable, and where the system right now does not put forth enough effort to seek and find them before it gets to the point that they are missing. We want a situation where when someone steps forward and says that someone is missing, immediate actions are able to be taken. We want a better system for communicating and for women knowing how to communicate when they feel like someone's missing and what the next step is for someone to do. That's something that should be taught to students for them to be aware of how to react when they see a friend in trouble. I know that we would not have gotten to this point if it wasn't for the young women who saw the car on fire, stepping forward and saying something and calling attention to what they saw. It took a village for this to happen, and for this person to be caught for this crime, and for Maxwell Anderson to be convicted. It was many people who came forward and took those steps, but we also need to know how to take those steps. What actions should be taken when you see evidence? How do you collect evidence? What evidence should be collected and how to preserve it? Those are things that we are not taught that are necessary for our judicial system to function.
Anybody who's here or watching the replay, please tell me, how did they meet? I think I heard that they met through another friend. I think that was the reason how they met. I could be totally wrong. I just want to know. I'm just curious if anybody knows who's here or watching the replay. But I think they met through another friend. And that's when she probably felt, a little bit safe going on a date with him because, through another friend, you wouldn't think the person would be so much of a creep or a weirdo or a psychopath or whatever. All right, resume.
Properly. And I believe we have representatives still here. So she's somewhere over here. Here she is. She is helping to support this family and bring forth that type of legislation and drafting those types of bills. She's been being instrumental in this community for seeking information from victims, from witnesses on how she can support what that bill should say. So if you have that type of information, if you have anything that you want to provide to her office, please do so. To me, the more voices that are heard, the more experts that can provide information, including psychologists, therapists, victim witness representatives, politicians, as well as litigators on both sides, defense attorneys and prosecutors alike. That information being brought forward to be put into a bill that can be concise, that can be proactive, that's important to this family at this point. We are going to be moving forward with our civil litigation case now that this has been resolved, and it will move forward quite rapidly once the sentencing has occurred. I am to some degree grateful about the fact that it was put on pause, because now I'm hoping I can get a ruling that he cannot use the Fifth Amendment to prevent such things as depositions and such forth moving forward. And we greatly have the intent to hold a deposition where we will ask pertinent questions and where we can hopefully finally get to some other truths that the family would like answers to. And I thank you all for being here. I know from a health standpoint that my client has endured multiple issues health-wise that we are now going to be able to address and move forward on. She was pausing on some of her health needs just until this was over. But now we'll be able to pay focus on those things as well. I know people have asked that question about how she was feeling and her mood throughout the trial, and there was one day that she couldn't attend, but that was the reason. There's been some things that, I don't know if anyone has had moments of lack of sleep, but when you cannot sleep for a year, when you have to deal with the torture of what happened to your child, when you have to sit through multiple times being shown those photos by the prosecution to prepare her for sitting through the trial, then to have to actually sit through that and have community members and politicians in Waukegan put those things out in the public in an indecent manner. I've been told, which I'm quite upset about, that someone in this media team, and I'm not sure where they are specifically as I'm standing here, but someone did a very disrespectful thing and put this out in the media and actually exposed photographs of her child. I am just begging you to remove them before we have to seek legal action against you as well. That was disturbing. That was disrespectful. That should never have been done. So whoever that was, please take that down. It is my understanding that that information is now sweeping through underground media. And if you don't know what I mean by that, there is a such thing as the dark web. The dark web loves to expose those type of photographs, and they make money off of them. This should not happen in the city of Milwaukee. This should not happen to any victim. It should.
What? She said a dark web? You have some real sick individuals out here that get off on stuff like this. And then there's other people that watch it too. Like the movie, that creepy movie, Vacancy. Anybody seen that? You know how people get off on other people's pain and... Well, all right. Hope they catch them, but they probably won't. Once it's out there, it's out there. You can't stop it, unfortunately. Resume.
Specifically not happen in this case. I am extremely upset by that. That type of information should have never been leaked to the media. If it was, you should have destroyed it. You should have had enough decency to destroy it. This case has been riddled with people who are inappropriate. This case has been riddled with people who are indecent, inhumane. That's why we are here. So for you to continue that type of behavior is appalling. It should cease. We are demanding that it ceases. The family is demanding that it ceases. The community demands that it ceases. We should not feed.
Okay, Manuel, we going somewhere. Are we talking like the movie with Nicolas Cage, 8mm? 8mm, I hope I'm saying it right. We talking like in that kind of room? Sick people.
Feed into the dark web. We should not feed into dark behaviors. Take action. Respect yourselves. Respect this community. If you're going to be the people who report the news, report it in a proper manner. We have nothing else to say. I believe they did the best job that they could with the information that they had at hand. This was a circumstantial case. There were no eyewitnesses, and he did his job to try to do this case and as best as he could, dealing with a person who did everything that he could potentially do to try to conceal evidence and hide. So when you have that type of person at hand, which is one of the most vile type of criminals that you could be, because your whole goal is to continue to commit crimes and get away with it, which is why most of us believe that this is not his first time. Most people aren't that good at hiding their activity when it's their first time. So we are happy that he is behind bars, that he will not be able to do this to anyone else.
How frustrating is it to still not have answers about where her remains are and how she died?
Well, we believe we know how she died. Based on the circumstantial evidence, the reports from the autopsy reports, we believe we know how she died. As far as the rest of the remains, I am hoping that throughout the process of the civil litigation, I'm able to get some more answers. I wish we could have gotten them now. I wish his family, as well as him, would have been more upfront and honest about what was happening. But someone that went to that extent to hide and conceal.
From every single day, is there someone who can come forward to just talk about what it finally feels to hear that verdict? Waiting for? Step forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the mother.
I remember Sade is forever. She will be forever remembered as an angel, a light worker who has touched so many souls, so many lives in the Milwaukee community. She is our hero. She is forever leaving an imprint. She walks in her own path, her own light. She solved her own case. My baby solved her own case. That's how I raised my kids. We don't give up. We are fighters. I demanded justice. I stand tall. I stand affirmative. Sade will continue to walk with me daily and right beside me. Please continue to support us by walking in how you move every day. Like, live by your principles. Live in your true spirit. That's how Sade is remembered, from every job, from every stranger, from every person she touched. Her energy is just, it will be forever with us. Please continue to support the foundation, SadesVoiceFoundation.com. Myself and Adriana and all of the Sade's Voice angels and light workers that have been standing beside me, the whole team. We will definitely be advocating for all of the other missing, murdered, all of the other individuals in the community. I appreciate everybody in the community that's been standing beside us and by us. I know that there's a lot of other crime victim families in the community that have been outreaching me, and I had to, I have to take it one step at a time. I have to get my baby's justice first before I can be able to help maneuver and support any other crime victim families. But that's definitely going to be our mission. That's how I'm going to carry on Sade's, her voice. Definitely. I'll be working with Representative Sheila Stubbs. Thank you so much for being here. We're pushing for the missing and murder task force. It's mandatory. The state definitely needs it for our BIPOC women, for all women. And just allow us time to just kind of grieve. I haven't really had a day to grieve since April of last year. Me and Adriana have been nonstop all day, every day. We my mom, my family, all of us, we don't give up. So that's what I can say about Sade. Go hard for your kids. If anybody has learned anything from the situation, please talk to your kids. Please communicate. It takes a village. See something, say something. And we'll be working to do many things. Just continue to follow us and support us. And my mission is for crime victim families.
Ms. Sheena, are you able to finally have some relief tonight after fighting so hard for justice, knowing that this man who murdered your baby is going to be spending decades in jail?
It's definitely it's a weight. It's such a heavy weight. It's never going to be the same. Even for Adriana, like my mom, that's our best friend. That's my baby. That's my angel. And there's no such thing as justice. Like, we don't have her, but we all. I mean, please understand how you treat people and how you put out energy and how you recycle it into the community, because I guess that's what keeps me knowing that it was a relationship that I had with my daughter, and it's nothing but positive energy, and the goals and the things that she was able to accomplish in her 19 years is just so phenomenal. And I have that peace in my heart knowing that
I like what the mother said. She had so much going for her, this beautiful girl, at 19 years old. I feel somewhere on this date, you realized you was with a Dusty. Something wasn't going right. Something. And I guess since you was doing all the driving, you probably drove him home, and I'm thinking maybe you got up in his place, maybe you used the bathroom and didn't realize when you went inside to use the bathroom what was going to happen. This is just my thoughts and opinions or whatever. But I think somewhere during this date, she realized she was with a Dusty. Not even just a Dusty, a psychopath. And I hope that her parents is suing every one of these bars that this lowlife took her to. Because they were serving her drinks, and she's 19 years old. That's against the law. Sue the bartender, sue the establishment, sue the security guards, whoever's out front that, they supposed to card you before you walk in. I don't care if he worked there, if this psychopath worked there and he knows friends and stuff like that. Shame on them. Because it's clear, you could tell looking at her that she's under 21. You could look at her and you would need to card. So sad. All right, let's resume. Just a little bit more, ladies and gentlemen. Then I'll let you guys want to do this for about an hour.
did the best possible job as a mother, and I will forever have her close in my heart. Just period.
Sheena, do you have any words for Maxwell Anderson?
No.
What's your favorite memory, childhood memory of Sade?
Everything. Her smile, just her light. She carried an aura, like the glow, the same aura that she FaceTimed me on Monday where she was taken. That same aura, angelic aura, that is literally a glow. Like Sade carried that glow from birth, and it's just her energy. Her energy. There's so many memories. There's so many memories, and throughout all of this, like throughout the grief and everything, Sade continues to talk to me, to guide me, and her mission is still wanting to help others.
How does it feel to have the verdict but still not to have her crown? I know that's something we talked about over and over again.
It's the most agonizing, painful thing, Bria. Like this, me and her dad, I just don't see how a demonic type energy can have no remorse and sit there, and how their family can support them and literally sit there and cover up and support the things that they were aware of that their son did. So karma's a bitch.
I agree with her. I'm trying to understand how his family was sitting there supporting him. I don't get it. I'm not supporting my child doing no sick crap like this. I'm not supporting anybody doing something sick like this. Are you kidding me? Reason.
And I will continue to fight to get her continued justice and for all of the other missing and murdered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The power.
I think the press conference is happening. So we got another 10 more minutes to see the press conference. I'm trying to rewind. I'm trying to fast forward,
It shouldn't even have taken this process. There's a lot of systemic glitches and things. You know, I'm very respectful for the team that we did have. Ian did a phenomenal job, and his partner. I'm very grateful, thankful to them. Sarah, the crime victim.
As Sade Robinson's mom compliments the work of the district attorneys there, let's take you to the district attorneys, the prosecutors that won this trial against Maxwell Anderson. They are just stepping to the podium. Different members of the district attorney's office and law enforcement. Let's listen in.
From the sheriff's office, the Milwaukee Police Department, and of course the Milwaukee County District Attorney's office. As you might expect, these people have limited time today. The cases don't stop, so we'll have about 15 minutes. Several speakers, starting with District Attorney Kent Lovern, will close out with Sheriff Ball and have a few people in between. And with that, I will, one other thing, a little bit of housekeeping. Verdicts may have been read, but this case is not over. So you can ask your questions. Not all of them may be answered, but ask away and we'll do what we can. With that, District Attorney Lovern, please.
Thank you, James. And good morning to all of you. First and foremost, I want to express our deepest sympathy to the family and loved ones of Sade Robinson. They've incurred a devastating loss that obviously occurred in a horrific manner. And they've had to carry this loss in a very public way now for over 14 months. And we are hopeful that this verdict brings some amount of solace to them. I want to express gratitude to the jurors who served in this case. We obviously are gratified by their verdict, obviously, because it is a just outcome in this case. But we are equally grateful for their service over 2 weeks, for their attention to this matter. And let's remember, jury service is among the highest level of civic responsibility any of us can be asked to take on. Juries are relied upon in the American justice system more than any place else in the world, and this is where members of our community have their highest amount of authority as they consider and decide cases. So we're very grateful for the jurors who served in this matter. I'm obviously very grateful to the superb law enforcement investigation that took place in this case. It was led by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and that team led by Detective Donna. Incredible work done here. As you heard through this trial, this was a very complex matter that took place in an investigation that spanned the entire county, and so required a great deal of meticulous and dedicated work. The Milwaukee Police Department played a big role in this investigation as well. We're grateful for their efforts. Assistant Chief Nicole Davila is here today, and I also want to express gratitude to all of the other law enforcement officials at the state, local, and federal level who participated in this investigation. It is important to know law enforcement in this county works very well together. That doesn't happen every place. It happens here in Milwaukee County, and for that, all of us in this community can be grateful. And finally, I want to thank our trial team. You know, the best prosecutors have a sharp mind and a big heart, and Ian Van Skerzan exhibits both of those at the highest level. Everyone saw that on full display during this trial. But what most people did not see was the hundreds of hours Ian has given to this case over the past 14 months in preparation for what happened in the courtroom over these past 2 years across the board. And I can step towards healing for everybody that this has affected, particularly her family. Satisfied with this verdict, our hearts go out to the family of Sade Robinson. This is a tragedy, and I'm just hopeful that this verdict can be a step towards healing for everybody that this has affected, particularly her family. I have to say that this investigation was extremely thorough, and the hours of work put into this by investigators from numerous agencies, the Sheriff's Office primarily, and the Milwaukee Police Department, as well as other local agencies, federal agencies, even one out-of-state agency. Everybody put together the case that you saw over the course of the past 2 weeks. It was an incredible effort by so many people, by so many dedicated members of the law enforcement community, and that's what you saw on display over the last 2 weeks. And the victim witness, Sarah, I can't thank you enough for the work you put in. You dedicated so much of your life to this case, and as the victim witness advocate staff in the district attorney's office really did that. I'm kind of at a loss for words here. It's been a long 2 weeks, but I just wanted to say those things. And yeah, and if there's any questions or my turn.
I have to say something to you. You did a phenomenal job. Your timelines, your closing arguments was to the T. You gave us so much clarity on everything. You did a phenomenal job. You sure did. All right, resume.
Oh, yes, Detective Donna in particular. She was the lead, and she's incredible. I owe her so much.
Well, it wouldn't have happened without his amazing presentation in court. But yes, like everyone said, my heart goes out to the family and her friends and really the community at large. Everyone's come together, and it's hard to take that step back as a law enforcement officer and not get that emotionally involved during the case. But I will admit that I did go back to my office after the verdict and I had a good cry because I finally got to have that emotion. It does affect us too. And as I said at one point on the stand, that while as the lead investigator, this wasn't me. I just was orchestrating. I was directing people where to go and what to do. And sometimes I felt a little lost, but without, the rest of my team, every single detective we have worked on this, all of Milwaukee's homicide unit, many of their officers, we had the ATF, the FBI, Cudahy, Waukegan, and it really was a huge joint effort, and this would not have happened without all of us working together. So I'm looking forward to putting this past 14 months behind me. It's taken a long toll. It's been a very difficult road, but I was very pleased with today's verdict, and incredible to work with this prosecution team. It made it very easy. Ian was with me literally from day one, and that's why he knew this case inside and out. He was there every single step of the way. So thank you.
Sure. I can take some questions, and so can Detective
Donna first. Can you summarize how many hours you spent on this case the last 14 months? And what was the most complex or challenging piece of this investigation from your perspective?
So since these are the two people that assign me my cases, they can probably attest that I have not been assigned pretty much any case for the past 14 months. It has been this case. So whatever 40 plus hours a week has been on this case. I have lived and breathed it. Even on some of my off times, I would go down to Warnemont and I'd go up and down that beach, just helping, right?
God bless
you. The most difficult part is not asking myself constantly, did I miss anything? Is there anything that I overlooked? Being hard on myself, I think, was actually really the hardest part on this case.
Ian, when that verdict came down today, it was guilty on all 4 counts. Your first thought was what?
just how thankful I am to have the team that I have. Megan, Sarah, others in my office, and then also just what I said before, that hoping that this can be a time for Sade's family to move on to some healing. Now having a verdict after all these months, those were the first things I thought about.
What do you think it says about the swiftness of this deliberation? It was less than an hour.
I think it says that the investigation was incredibly well done. You know, I'm not a participant in that. I just try to tell the jury what the facts are and let the facts speak the truth. And I think that when a case is investigated the way this one was investigated, the truth just spoke for it. I mean, the evidence just spoke for itself. That's all I can really say about that. And I think the jury saw that. There really wasn't much I needed to say in my closing argument. I felt like just because of how much the jury had seen, they saw how thorough it was.
Ian, it seems that the presentation of your case that you and Megan did, you're trying to put together all these different pieces of evidence, all these different timelines, and make it consumable and understandable for a jury, especially when you're getting into very dry technical evidence. How much time was spent on that, and how does that go towards what you think is verdict that was shared?
I mean, there were, you know, hours and hours of video that was poured through by many detectives, and that I watched as well with them, and repeatedly watched that stuff. And the time put into that, all the videos, retrieving the videos, I mean, that's what defined the timeline and the routes that were taken and that sort of thing, that allowed for a complete understanding of what happened throughout the day, the evening, and the early morning hours into the next day. There's countless hours spent reviewing video. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
there are 82 witnesses by our count that were called for your case. 68 members of law enforcement, 12 civilians, 2 non-law enforcement government workers, and Detective Donna, I think, our track had you taking the stand the most times of that. Have you ever called that many witnesses in a case, or remember calling that many witnesses in a case, and purpose of that, I'm guessing, to lock in and try and carry that timeline forward?
I've never called that many witnesses. I can't speak for Megan. I think she may have before. But no, I've never called that many witnesses, but that was necessary to lock in the timeline and be very clear. Because one of the things when you're dealing with a case that involves such a large geographic range and a long timeline, it's going to require a lot of people to help explain all of that, and that's what we had here.
Ian, there was a lot of evidence in this case, but what would you consider to be the key piece of evidence that helped you prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt?
I'm not sure I really want to comment on that. I think the evidence spoke for itself, and I think if you watched the trial, everybody who watched the complete trial got to a moment where I think it got to that point at some point. But
Donna, can you just talk about the complexity of this case, having to deal with agencies from across the county, even spilling into Illinois?
So initially, we ended up having daily briefings over at MPD to kind of get caught up on the aspects that they were working on, and then joining it up with what we were working on. Sorting out those tasks, thankfully, it was easier than I thought it would be. You know, just letting them know, like, hey, we need video from this area, and I didn't have to worry about knowing it's going to get done. Same with my guys, just, you know, asking them to do unusual things like throw a pair of gloves off of a cliff. You know, no one questioned it; they just went ahead and did it. So it was having that trust and that confidence, mostly in the.
Any reason that wasn't brought up in this case?
I don't want to comment on that.
Do you concern us in the past 9 days? Sometimes we were less confident maybe than.
When you have a team like we had here and support, family support, colleague support like we had, I was feeling confident mostly the entire time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to do an hour. I just wanted to recap of the verdict. And we got to hear the defense lawyer, and we got to hear the prosecution. And that's it. So we wait for August. August, that's when they're going to have the sentencing. So that's going to be interesting. Hopefully he's getting life. Life. Oh, boy. She didn't know in the next few hours what was going to happen to her. All right, a moment of silence, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for hitting the like button. Rest in peace, young lady. Rest in peace. Moment of silence.